Howdy, folks. Welcome back to Viva La Cats. I am your host, Justin Hiles, accompanied by my great friend, Joel Spencer, and we are here today to tell you that Norwood sucks. Xavier sucks. It is so great to finally be able to just put them down, put them back in their place for once. It's been too long. Joel, thank you for joining me. And as always, of course, we are part of the 1012 network. So make sure to head on over to X, Twitter, and check out the 1012 network and all of the great shows. You can also find that on the 1012 website. Joel, we were there in person. We got to witness it. We said this last week, and I think it's true. The last time we attended a shootout in Fifth Third, it was a dub. And yet again, it prevails. Are we the secret sauce?
We might be the secret sauce. Maybe our voices were the secret sauce on Saturday because we're both a little raspy right now. But man, oh man, that was a nail biter down to the wire. I mean, talk about a gritty win, like getting down, halfway through the second half and being down by 7. Was it more than 7 at any point in the second half?
I think it was 7. Yeah, 7 was, I think, the greatest lead.
But clawing our way back and then just dominating the last few minutes the way that we did, except for the final 30 seconds, that was scary. But man, talk about an environment, talk about just such a great atmosphere in college basketball. It was, just such a great scene, and ESPN Plus did it no favors.
Absolutely none. But, it's, of course, you got to flex these games so you can see a top team like Auburn blow Ohio State out by like 50 points. Because why else would you want to watch this game over that game?
What a mess.
Why would you? Why would you want to watch a close rivalry game that's one of the best in college basketball? I don't know. Joel, the craziest part about this game, again, Xavier sucks. Just going to keep throwing it in there just so people know. We played, quite honestly, terribly. Like we did not play this game in any way, shape, or form to win it. And it took all of the hustle, all of the grit. And I think, we say this every single year, but this year it came true. And in the Bearcats' favor, it's about who wants it more. And it not only who wants it more, but it's about who wants it more in that last like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it just was. It was an absolute rock fight. Like there was nothing happening in this game from either side. Xavier, of course, as they do every single year, just found a way to like hit another big three or another big three and just keep that lead, just keep pushing us back just enough. And when push came to shove, the Bearcats did the right things at the right time when it was absolutely necessary, but at no other point from about halfway through the first half until the final 4 minutes and change. At no point during that did it seem like we were really going to take over in this game. And it was the best part because thankfully our defense held through and we kept this lead from getting blown up. We kept this lead from getting out of hand, and we found a way to stay in a game late where we just could not buy a bucket. I mean, we'll go through the shot chart here. It's terrible.
Well, here's the thing. We were leading for most of the first half.
Yeah.
And then we had just sloppy play in the last couple minutes, and Fremantle hits a big 3 to put them up 1 going into halftime, stares down Kenyon Martin, talks some shit, and that was a choice.
2 points after that.
But even beyond that, we come out of the locker room and Xavier goes on a run and gets out to that early lead in the second half. And you want to talk about shot charts? Holy shit. Like when your best players don't show up and you still find a way to win, as Wes Miller says, that's a team right there.
Yes.
But you look at the chart, like Seamoss was only 5 for 13, 1 for 7 from 3. He has been our pure shooter this entire season so far, and he only had 1 clutch 3 that was there in the second half.
Worst shooting performance of the year.
Correct. Jizzle James 0 for 11. Just nothing was falling for him, but clutch 2 free throws at the end of the game. Skilling's 4 for 10. I mean, you can look at everyone on the team, and the only thing that was working for us was Dunk City, just lob it up and let someone throw it down. And I mean, except for Day Day, I feel bad for Day Day. That was a momentum swing right there. But that's exactly what we were going for. I'm sure Wes in his halftime speech said, you've got this entire stadium rooting for you, cheering for you, exploding on every highlight play that you go. If you need to get highlight plays, do that. Like, get the crowd involved, because as soon as we started like chipping away at the lead and getting back in it at the very end of the game, as soon as we tied that game, the place erupted. As soon as we took our first lead of the second half, the place erupted. It was just an insane atmosphere, and we found a way to win despite all odds stacked against this team.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me in this too that I just find really interesting is not only that, where a lot of things went wrong, but Wes really didn't like dive all that deep into his bench either. Like this was a short game. That we talked about this. What is this team going to boil down to by the time you get to conference play? What's that sort of like 8-man rotation? You saw it clear as day here. You had Aziz, Mitchell, Lukosius, James, and Skillings all in there. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's ready to go. But off the bench, you have 9 from Page, or 9 minutes from Page. You have 22 from Day and 20 for Hickman. Like, this was a short roster, and Betsy only getting 5 minutes in this game. Like, it's just, that's how the rotations boiled out. You did what you needed to do, and figured things out. And again, you get 9 points from Hickman, 8 from Day off the bench. And then you got 4 double-digit scores, but nobody really cracking it open in this game. Nobody really finding an offensive rhythm. You got beat on like this. I want to list this off too, because this is the crazy part to me. Field goal percentage, 22 for 58, both teams in this game. 3-point percentage, you got beat. At the free throw line, you got beat. Rebounds, you got beat. It's and you look at this and it goes to turnovers. It goes to you win the turnover margin by 4. You have 4 blocks to 0 for Xavier. You win the steal margin by 2. And points in paint, you're winning with an extra 4 points there. Like, those are the things and the physicality of this game where, again, like, you can look at all the shooting you want, but when it comes to steals, blocks, and turnovers, that's the thing that we've really harped on this year as to the thing that you have to like keep consistent. And if you can do those things every single night, you're going to keep yourself in the game. And they did a good job of that, and they stayed disciplined enough. And then, of course, the thing that we've talked about all season long, we've talked about for years, it's plagued this team for decades, literally decades, all the way back through Huggins. Free throws.
Yep.
Free throws. And there's a very fun comment, which we will quote, but everything in this game was just like, you just did just enough. And that's the kind of thing you need.
You mentioned winning the blocks and turnover battle, but then even on fast breaks, we were trying to get too creative and, looking for the quick out for a shot, when just take the easy layup. Like, we were almost trying too hard, and it wasn't working for us. And I think that's where towards the end of the game, you just had to slow things down, like play simple, like let your defense stand up and hope that you make shots. But man, we could not buy a bucket for anyone.
Well, I remember you mentioned that too. Like, I remember there was probably 5 or 6 minutes to go. We were down at least 5 at this point. We're still trying to claw back. You get the steal in the open court. You break for it all the way down. Seamus has a wide open layup to take himself, and he tries the behind the back pass to shovel it back, and immediately throws it into Xavier. Like, immediately. I'm like, again, those are the things where this team, I think, has a lot to learn still, and a lot to just, I understand you're trying to make the good play. You're trying to make those flashy plays. You're trying to make it fun. But also, like, you're trying to claw back. Like, don't do anything stupid. Stick to the fundamentals. Win the game. Thankfully, we've said this so many times already, they've done just enough in this game. And that is the thing that I'm really excited for, because this is the perfect formula. This is the perfect chart to show you what you need to do when it gets to conference play, when games are going to get out of hand, games are going to get scrappy, games are going to get away from you. Do these things just right, just enough when you can't buy a bucket, and you might find a way to win a game. And that's the difference between this year and last year. And if you can do this in a big game like this, I think they can really do a lot of damage.
And I don't want this to be a what if comment because we won the game and that's what matters. But what if you give Jizzle 3 of his 11 shots? What if you give Seamoss 2 more threes that he attempted out of his 7? What if you give Skillings 2 more buckets? Like, this could have been a 10, 15-point game, and we did not play well enough to put it away. And we were in the position where we had to mount the comeback, and Xavier was not letting off the gas. I think one of the things that really helped us and is very unfortunate because you always want to, beat a team, especially a rival, at full strength, was it came out after the game. And I think just today on Monday that Fremantle actually suffered a lower leg injury and is going to be out for some serious time. And, you hope not for the season, but he took a really hard fall.
That was
in that second half.
Clear as day. We were on the opposite side of the arena. You could hear it, man. It just like the lights went out.
Yeah. And looking back at the replay, it doesn't really, like, his head snaps back, but it doesn't look like it hits the ground really hard. It's just his momentum, but it's hard to see where he tweaked, anything in his knee on that fall. But regardless, that had him shook up. And we haven't even mentioned the shot that he had at the end of the game. He put the dagger right before halftime. That was, he would have cemented his legacy in the rivalry as truly like the Cincy killer, like the Bearcat killer. And as a Cincy podcast, thank God he missed that shot. But I know Wes said in the post game, like, our goal was to foul. Like, he was not supposed to be that wide open. Everyone was supposed to have a man. And the fact that they let him get that wide of an open shot, thank God that he bricked that, because they would have had all the momentum going into overtime. And I honestly don't know if the Bearcats would have held up.
Yeah. And that's fair too. Like, I think that's the thing about this game in general is if somebody's going to like pop off, sometimes you just got to let them do it. And sometimes you got to let them have it. And thankfully, like, even though like Fremantle took that big hit, like, he's still playing physical. He's still there every play, but you could clearly see too, like, it affected him in the latter minutes of the game. He just wasn't quite as physical as he was the entire time. And as much as this is a rivalry and as much as we all hate Xavier and Xavier does suck, we do wish for a fast recovery for Fremantle because, it's your rival. You want to see him lose, but at the same time, like, Xavier winning is good for everybody. And Fremantle's a core piece of that. And he's, like we said, he's made the shootout super interesting over the past few years. So I'd be really curious to see what Xavier can do without him, because I think that was a really big limiting factor for them in years past when he's not been able to play. And it is a big what if for them. So I am curious to see how they can manage without him. But again,
and we had our own, mini injury during the game as well with Dylan Mitchell, tweaking his ankle and having to walk it off. And I thought he was about to be pulled off, and, he wanted to stay in and walked it off and still played well down the stretch. But you want to talk about who popped off in this year's crosstown. It doesn't show on the stat sheet, but Connor Hickman.
Oh yeah.
My God.
Dude kept us in it.
The energy that he brought. He had a couple dagger threes that lit the crowd up as well. And he was who posted up on Hickman when Aziz came over and had that block?
Who posted up on Hickman?
It was the big Aziz block. But Hickman was like guarding the post. It was a switch. And Hickman got stuck guarding the post, and I think I was up screaming, like, let him have it. Like Hickman had made so many big plays by that point that I was not even worried about him guarding someone who's a foot taller than him in the post, because he was just bringing that mad dog energy the entire game.
Yeah. It was definitely fun to watch, and I think that's again the thing that like it's the scrappiness in this game. And that's what makes this so fun. It's what makes it so energetic, and it's the scrappiness and that it's the chirping and the yelling and the screaming from fans. Obviously we yelled our guts out the whole time. We had a ton of Xavier fans in standing room only standing up behind us. And then of course they did fill up a nice little chunk up in the upper deck. But it's fun because like during that game, there's certain points where it's like, man, like they just hit a 3 and then they hit another one down the court again, and it sucks all the air out of there. And all you can hear is them cheering. It's like, guys, we got to get this together. We have to figure it out.
And the chants for "Let's go X, let's go Muskies," like we tried to drown that out as soon as we could. But man, when the Muskies were up, it was really hard to drown them out because the energy was sucked right out. And then, of course, after the game, a fight breaks out in the section right behind us between Xavier fans and I have to assume a Bearcat fan.
Oh, I can only imagine.
But we stayed in our seats because we're good little angels who do nothing wrong except for yell obscenities at Xavier players and coaches.
Many obscenities.
With the rest of our section. I said with the rest of our section. We were not alone. But,
of course.
But yeah, we had Sean Miller look up at us a couple times because we were that close and just screaming our hearts out. So absolutely great environment. Another one, we were talking about going out afterwards and we missed it, man. Cunningham went to Mio's afterwards.
It's always like finding the needle in the haystack. There's multiple bars where he could go, but where did they go?
It'll never be Woody's. Like, as much as Travis Kelce loves Woody's, it'll never be Woody's. We thought maybe Murphy's, but that's still so much of a college bar. Like, anytime they go and buy out, a bar or buy drinks for everyone, it is always more of an alumni location. And, of course, Mio's. We should have guessed Mio's. Yeah. The amount of events that they hold there, we should have known. But there were even X-fans that were chirping that, like, oh, it's your Super Bowl, go ahead and do that. First of all, like we said last week with Kenny Freeze and the Blob podcast, it should be both teams' Super Bowl. Like, the hate runs true. The hate runs deep. You want to beat your rival more than any other game that you play that season. So yes, I will happily say this was our Super Bowl. And now we can look forward to the rest of our season. But if we were to make a Final Four this year and we lost to Xavier, none of it would have mattered because Xavier would always have that talking point over us. We can't even talk about the hypothetical of if Xavier were to make a Final Four, because that'll never happen and has never happened. But we, once again, mentioned it last week. You look at if Ohio State goes on a run in the playoffs, they still lost to Michigan this year. There is, probably more than 50% of the fan base that does not care if they win or if they get to the semifinal or national championship game because they lost to Michigan. And even if they win the Natty, they will still call for Ryan Day's removal. Like, that is what this game should mean to both Bearcats and Musketeers fans. Mm-hmm. It is pure hate. You want to win no matter what. So yeah, we're going to buy out bars. We're going to be shit talking for the next 360 whatever days because this game means a lot to both fan bases. And like Wes Miller said, he didn't want to be kicked out of his house. We stopped the streak at 5, have a long way to go to, Xavier loves to cherry pick the stat of the last 10 years, the last 20 years. Guess what? All time, we have a soft cushion on that, and we are ready to build on that. So
the tide is turning, folks. The tide is turning. And you know what? Here, this is how you know the tide is turning. Let's just play this so this can be heard. This is Wes in the post-game locker room, which some people love to keep these things private. Absolutely not. Juice me up. Like, this is the stuff I want to hear. This is the stuff I want to see.
Here's the thing. If it's a player that normally posts these, absolutely not. Like, the players are going to be yelled at to take it down. But when it's alumni that post it, there's nothing you can do. Like, that's free on the internet now.
You can't make a fucking layup. You can't make a fucking shot. You can't score. And you still fucking win it. That takes fucking balls. Sir. You do that and you fucking win, sir. That's not another motherfucking team.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Got me fired up.
And
Got me fired up.
This is the stuff. This is what we're talking about. And again, players love Wes Miller. People love Wes Miller. This is what's bringing so much of this high quality talent to this program. You go out in a game like this. Again, we danced around this whole point this entire time, but we'll make this quick. Is this, even though it's ugly, even though it's not the perfect scenario, is this not the blueprint that says Wes Miller can do it? Find a way. This is the blueprint. This is the blueprint. Wes Miller found the game that he can hang his hat on. The monkey's off the back. You can finally breathe, and you can say, you know what? All the people who got Wes Miller hater comments, all the people who don't believe in the future of this program or think that he doesn't have the balls to do it, you can shut up now. You can shut up now. This game proved it. It was there for the taking, and at the end of the game, he got everything in the right place. The Bearcats did exactly what they needed to do at the end of the game when they couldn't find anything and made it happen. That's Cincinnati basketball. That's grit. That's a dub. Norwood sucks. And guess what? There's more about Norwood sucking, because not only do the dudes suck, but Xavier girls suck too, because the women's team also got the dub and we got a shootout sweep. This is our city. It ain't called Norwood, Ohio. It's called Cincinnati, Ohio. Joel, it's wonderful. Like, it's absolutely wonderful. Like, winning the shootout is one thing, but being able to get a sweep in this game just means that much more. And Katrina Merriweather improves to, I believe the stat is 11-0 all time as a player and coach against Xavier. Woof, y'all got to figure something out.
Yep. Yeah, 11-0. Tempers flared after the game between some of the assistant coaches. I guess there was video that came out of one of their coaches having to be restrained and taken off the court just by other members of the staff, not by police or anything. But then when coaches were asked after the game, Merriweather said, she wasn't sure of all the facts of the situation. She just knew tempers flared, but that's what happens in the rivalry. And excuse me, I forget the name of the Xavier head coach, but I did see her post-game clip, and she said that, tempers flared, and that's the rivalry. And, we'll sit on that for a year and we'll revisit it. So something must have happened. Not sure if it was words, if it was shoving, a bit too hard of a handshake, whatever it was. But that's what you want to see in the rivalry.
You want to see the fire. You want to see it.
You do. You absolutely do. And my God, Jillian Hayes. First of all, shout out Loveland. Second of all, 18 points. 18 points, led the team. I mean, that's close to a third of all of the Bearcats points right there. That's pretty damn good.
So that's good.
But
how about the 16
total? Yeah, 16 total rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks. I mean, all over the stat sheet. Just absolute MVP of the game, and just the women doing the city proud as well.
Mm-hmm.
And on Norwood's court.
And in Centos. Guys, still got to figure that out. Different point. This is the thing. This is the thing that you see in the men's game. You see it in the women's game too. Again, it's that chippy back and forth. These games trade leads all the time. There's always something happening. It should be neck and neck the whole time. It should be interesting. It should be exciting. And then with about 6 minutes left in the game, Bearcats went up and they never looked back. 160-48, putting down the Muskies once again. It's honestly a wonderful thing that in a rock fight like this, they held the Xavier women's team to under 50 points, which is just miraculous. You love to see that. Not only did they do that, but they actually had a similar situation to the men's team in the fact that we went 0 for 13 from the 3-point line. That is a big old goose egg, and still won this game by 12 points. That should be enough for you to say Look at it. 24 for 30 from the free throw line. Insane number.
And
absolutely wonderful.
And props to the women who are better at free throws than the men's team.
Yes, beat the ass on the glass, won the rebounding battle by 11, 40-29.
Yeah.
I mean,
the women absolutely dominated their game, and it's great to see bringing it back home for the Bearcats. Also, bone to pick, the women's teams have a trophy that they play for.
See, here's the thing. There's no bone to pick here, Joel. Like, there really isn't. Like, I honestly think the trophy is just getting to troll the other team all year long. I almost love the fact that there isn't a trophy because it's literally just about bragging rights. And I think that's the best part.
Fair.
Maybe we should get flags and plant them in center court and get a felony. I don't know. Maybe we should do it. We should consider it. It's now illegal in the state of Ohio to plant a flag in the middle of a stadium, not just Ohio Stadium, but any stadium. So let that be known, fellow Big 12 teams, if you try to do that.
It's not illegal, but the congressman that
so what is a felony?
Brought that bill, no, that's what's proposed, but it hasn't been passed or certified at all. But what a soft fan base. What a soft fan base.
You know how soft they are? You know how soft they are, Joel? I said it before, and I'll say it again. The flex. I mean, it's not even a flex. For some reason, they decided that of all games, they were going to put on the primetime slot Ohio State versus Auburn. Guess what? Ohio State, the Suckeyes lost 53-91. Like, we need say no more.
Yeah.
Good riddance.
Yeah,
you know what?
ESPN Plus sucks, but the Bearcats do not.
ESPN Plus does suck. The Bearcats do not. And guess what? We have some even more interesting information for you. Dayton, as it stands today in the updated rankings, has moved up into the top 25, which is amazing because they have played an insane schedule and they are very, very good. And if you are a Bearcat fan who's feeling high after the win against Norwood, I think I'm hoping I am incorrect. I'm really excited for this game. You got a 19 versus 22 matchup, neutral site at Heritage Bank Center this Friday. It's going to be electric at 7:30 p.m. Gotta love a good night game. Good crowd should be there. It's going to be scary hours. Dayton is really good, and they have beat some very good teams.
Yeah.
And I would like to let it be known that their two losses are to number 12 UNC and number 5 Iowa State by a combined 7 points. Beyond that, they beat number 2 UConn and number 6 Marquette. This is a very, very good team, and I hope that people are not understating the fact of how important it is to pack out that arena with Bearcats fans. That's
for sure. I mean, the last game was probably 60-70% Dayton fans, which, yes, it's technically a neutral site, but it's in downtown Cincinnati. Like, I know season ticket holders don't get access to it, but you gotta go.
Show up. Go up.
You've gotta go and support the Bearcats. You've got to create a neutral site home crowd advantage because this is a game that can get out of hand very quickly. Dayton is a great team. I don't mean this as an insult. This has trap game written all over it because
it did last year. It does this year too.
Yep, because we came out of the high of the shootout, and great. Now we're looking ahead to conference play. No. Don't you look past this game. This game will stand up against your Iowa State game, your Houston game, your Kansas game. Like, this Dayton team is very, very good. And, if they don't win their conference by whatever sorcery that happens in the A-10 tournament, guess what? They're probably getting an at-large bid because they've already proved how good this team is.
Yep. That's very fair. Dayton, as it currently stands, 23rd in net. So let it be known that Dayton's record thus far, 5-0 in quad 4, 1 win and 1-0 in quad 2, no Q3s, but 2-2 in Q1. And they've played some very tough teams. Iowa State might be one of the best teams in the entire country. UConn clearly has lost some games, but still a very quality team. Marquette clearly is going to be one of the top teams coming out of the Big East, and North Carolina clearly going to be maybe the top team, if not the top two, coming out of the ACC. So it's like this team has clearly shown everything they need to show to prove to you that this is going to be a very difficult game. And if we don't have our head on straight, unfortunately, I think in this game, in the way that you had the chance against Xavier, which it's easy to say this, hindsight's 2020, but you can't afford to have another night like you did against Xavier against Dayton, because Dayton can shoot the lights out. Dayton will take advantage. They will build leads and they will hold leads. They will play gritty every single game. And this is the thing, actually, I had heard this from a Dayton fan, which I thought was really interesting. And he had mentioned that, over the past few years, you've got Obi Toppin, you have Deron Holmes, you have some of these like marquee names that are like really the guy on the team. You take them out of the game, anybody can go in there and kind of win that game. But if they're in, Dayton's winning. And if they're playing good minutes, they're winning. The interesting part about that is the fact that this team doesn't really have that guy right now. Everybody can just kind of do it. And there's not like one standalone guy who's like player of the year level type of talent. They just have a lot of talent on their roster. And I'm like I said, I'm nervous about this game. I'm really excited for the Bearcats. I think we've got a lot of upside, but if you want to prove not only to yourselves, not only to the Big 12, but you want to prove to the committee that's going to be selecting in March for the tournament that you belong, you have to win this game. Like I think if you lose this game, you could still go 500 in the Big 12 and make it in. I think you're going to have a solid enough slate as long as you win a few Q1s. But this game really is a standalone one in your non-conference that shows you can beat the teams that are head and shoulder to the entire rest of the best teams in the nation. And while our schedule hasn't really given us a chance to prove that yet, Dayton's has. And so if you can beat that team, I think it really does a lot for you later on in the season. And that's going to be a really high value game, because once Dayton gets to conference play, the way they're playing right now, they're going to run train. Like the A10 has no idea what they got coming. Like it's going to be hard for them. They have a really good team in Rhode Island and St. Bonaventure, but Dayton, I think, is going to be the team that's going to run train on this conference. And so, take out a champion. Take out a champion. If you call it now, take out that champion of the A10. Take out this team that looks really good and has beat a lot of really good teams thus far, and has stayed close in every game. And again, like I said, I think the blueprint's there for the Bearcats. You just gotta have a decent night shooting, and you got to keep on the defense. You got to hustle on every play. You got to chase those, loose balls that are going out of bounds. Just play that Cincinnati gritty DNA type of game. And I think that this game is there to win. There's a lot of metrics that have actually had like advantage given to the Bearcats here. I don't believe it. Like I wouldn't touch the spread with a 10-foot pole on this. Like I really wouldn't. Like this should be a one possession game at the end of it. This should be decided on free throws or a game winning shot. It's going to be interesting.
Oh man.
It's going to be very interesting. Joe, you got anything else on this game?
No. I mean, I think it might have been either you or Steve. It might have been the Viva page, but can you imagine just the on-screen glory that the Dayton Powder Blues and the new Cincy All Blacks would bring? That'd be so sexy. That'd be so sexy. I'm sure they won't. I'm sure they'll stick to home and away, but man, that'd be great.
It would be great. I mean, even if they pulled the Cats jersey out of the bag and just threw that one on, I would be very happy with that too. The only thing I'll leave us off with on this conversation is this. Dayton as a team, their scoring right now looks super similar to us. The one upside where I think that we might have in this game, again, they've played some really, really good offenses, but the Bearcats defense thus far has proven all season long that no matter who they're playing, they're going to keep them really in check. And so I think if you can keep Dayton's offense in check in this game and just kind of go shot for shot with them, you got a really good opportunity to just slug this one out if you have to. But again, Dayton is very good at building leads, and they're very good at comebacks. They're one of the best come from down teams in the entire nation. They've proved that not just this season, but in past seasons as well. So this is a very dangerous team that I would not I would not look past. And even in this game against Marquette that they just played, Marquette was leading 39-26 coming out of the half, and Dayton won by a grand total of 8 points. So, like, again, you crawl down from a 13-point deficit and win by 8. Quick maths, that's a 21-point swing. Very good team. Don't let them get away from you. Keep yourself in that, and I really hope the Bearcats can do it. Joel, we have talked a ton on basketball. There's a little bit of football that we got coming. But before we get to that, we have one more thing about basketball, and that is from our good friends at Charlie Hustle. That's right. Charlie Hustle, bringing the heat every single week. This is a shirt from last season, currently on sale for a grand total of $21. Go and grab it and get something else. Use your promo code from your boys at 1012, from your friends here at VIVA LA CATS. Use that promo code that is 101215 for 15% off of all non-sale items. That is good as long as we keep giving you this ad. But this great shirt right here, bring the ruckus. The Bearcats did a fantastic job of doing that in the shootout. And I'm gonna call this one right here. I think they're gonna keep doing it for the rest of the season. So you might as well get this shirt, throw it on, get to a game. Great for a blackout. Pack it out. Pack Fifth Third every single week. Let's keep this rowdy energy going. I think there's a lot going for these Bearcats. Very excited to see what they can do for the rest of the season. So again, use that promo code 101215 for 15% off at charliehustle.com, where vintage is made fresh. Joe. Interesting times.
Yeah.
Bearcats basketball is hot. Women's, men's taking care of business against Norwood. But guess what? The portal in football keeps on moving. We have the start of the playoff this week. But there's things happening for the Bearcats. We got a few things that are interesting happening already. The Bearcats have, of course, returned the one and only Brendan Sorsby.
Mm-hmm.
They have returned the one and only Dante Corleone.
Mm-hmm.
They have returned their 2 key starters on both sides of the ball. And they also are returning tight end Joe Royer for 2025. Some fantastic news.
Yeah. I mean, Royer was a surprise announcement at the shootout. They walked Sorsby and Corleone out onto the court, and then Royer walked in right behind them, and they announced it over the Jumbotron. And my God, what that place erupted. I mean, getting those 3 back for next season, those are cornerstones for sure. And I know, there was some NFL buzz, and for them to come back, the city's got to be drinking a lot of Cincy Light. I'll tell you that much.
Keep doing it.
So I love to see that all those guys are coming back, and they're getting some help in the portal right now. Mm-hmm. There are some big names that they've, of course, big is relative when it comes to the transfer portal, but there's some standouts that they've gotten to commit to Cincy. The 4 big ones so far: Texas A&M receiver Cyrus Allen, who has over 1,500 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns across Texas A&M and Louisiana Tech. You also have Colorado State receiver Caleb Goody, who is speedy and led his team in both yards and touchdowns this year. Ball State offensive lineman, I might butcher this name, Teron Teo. He was a 2-year starter at guard and earned all-conference honors. And then Coastal Carolina cornerback, which name very equal to to some of our other Bearcat defensive backs over the last few years.
It's always my favorite game.
Matthew McDoom, 1 touchdown allowed on 293 snaps this year. I mean,
as well, also Old Dominion defensive end Jalen White McLean. Also add that there too.
Great. And then there are other players that are already have visits announced. There's another just looking at the news, there's another Ball State player who's a receiver who has a visit announced, 6'5", 207 wide receiver, 20 catches for close to 400 yards and 3 touchdowns in 4 games this season. So, look, we all have very strong feelings on Satterfield and company, but they're getting some guys, and this is kind of the put up or shut up year of okay, like, we have all of our frustrations. You know what the expectation is. It's time to either prove it or get out of town.
Yep. Yeah. And, it's a thing where we've said it all of this past season. We said it this season before. You got to find a way to get that mojo back, man. Like, you got to find a way to not let this era that you had with the playoff just become the past. And it's a thing that I think it's easy to say for some programs where you hit a high once and then you just kind of ride it for the little time you can, and then it goes away.
Yeah.
For the Bearcats, this is a thing where since they had their height in, starting in around 2007, 2008, when that run started, we expect big things out of this team. We expect double-digit wins. We expect to do those types of things. Of course, hard competition. It's going to be tough. The NIL era, completely different era of football than we've ever encountered, than any other team has ever encountered. It's just new for everybody, but you expect this team to elevate and to be in contention, for a championship. I think we would be remiss to just throw in the towel as a fan base and say, well, as long as we're bowling each year, we're having fun, or as long as we're bowling each year, we're excited and we're doing the least. That should be your absolute floor. Like, if we're bowling and you hit 6-6, we should be pissed. Like, this is what this fan base and this program has come to expect, is that you should be at the top of your game. And that happened in the Big East. That happened in the American. We should expect that here in the Big 12 too. Like, we said it all season long. This conference is wide open. There is no excuse as to why the Bearcats can't be any one of these other teams, just like Arizona State, just like BYU, just like Iowa State, just like Kansas State, just like any of these other teams in the Big 12 that, BYU, I think, was successful a long time. Arizona State has kind of fluxed in and out. Iowa State has perennially been a pretty bad team over the course of history, but has found their path through the Big 12 over the past few years. And a team like Kansas State, they expect to be good, but again, like, this conference is wide open. Utah and Oklahoma State got slapped in the face this year. Arizona got slapped in the face this year. Like, there is no reason why you can't be one of those teams, and accepting anything less than that, I think, is really sad for this program, because we've reached such great heights. You should want to get back there again, and we shouldn't accept this floor of a 3-9 team or a 5-7 team. This team can be much better, and there can be a lot more for them. And so I'm excited for this next season, just to go out and see if we can do it. And maybe kind of rewrite the story on what unfortunately has plagued us the past 2 years and start of the Satterfield era thus far.
And especially in the expanded playoff era, it's not as hard to make the playoff anymore. You
really
just
isn't.
have to be good. You don't even have to make your conference championship game. If you are good enough through the season and play good enough opponents, you will have a resume and can be selected. And, when we were together this weekend, we were talking about, different playoff models, and I would love for the FBS to follow the FCS model as well and expand it further. And it really doesn't add that many more games to what the current playoff has right now. But in this current model, there's no excuse. You shouldn't be trying.
Yeah.
I mean, bowl eligibility absolutely is the floor. Seasons that you do not reach bowl eligibility put you on the hot seat, and you string enough of those together and you're gone. One of the, I'll say unfortunate, but people have strong feelings about it. One of the
say it with your chest, Joel.
One of the layoffs of this season was Westside Jesus, Kerry Coombs, who special teams struggled over the last couple of years, and it's probably a move that really needed to happen. And as great as he was with recruiting back in the heyday, it just the results weren't there on the field. And it's great to see that the staff was making moves, and there were even reports and rumors that came out of Satterfield and co reaching out to a former Bearcats assistant to come back to the team. So it seems like they are trying to make moves. And also, side note, props to Marcus Freeman for getting a contract extension and becoming one of the highest paid coaches in college football. Great for him. We will always be Marcus Freeman fans. Also, Big Ten schedules got released, and Luke Fickell, my God, we'll see if he has a job after next year. But anyways, back to the Bearcats, to who we have on our roster, on our staff. This is kind of the last year that you can say, okay, show us what you're made of, before people will really, really start demanding change.
Yeah. Well, and let's add this too. I think the thing with Kerry Combs is I'm a Coleraine grad. I grew up a Coleraine Cardinal fan my whole life. I knew I was going to school there. And I knew I was going to the Bearcats. I love Kerry Combs. I think he's a fantastic person, and Westside Jesus is a deserved name, and there's a reason everybody calls him that. It's a wonderfully earned nickname, and he's had a very successful career as a coach. But to add this too, it's a cutthroat industry. Football is a cutthroat industry, and I think when your special teams has shown 2 seasons in a row that it's cost you some games and it's cost you some big moments, and you have to get things in order, sometimes push has to come to shove. Unfortunately, it's a situation like this for Kerry. It's going to be sad to see him go, but I know he'll still be around the program in some capacity. He's still going to be around Cincinnati. He's not going anywhere. No. And if he does, he's still going to be very vocal about the city because he loves it, and we still love him. And so we wish the best of luck, of course, to Kerry. And wherever he ends up, if he continues coaching, or if he goes to the high school level again, or whatever he does.
I think the terms that were revealed was he was relieved of his duties, which is the most respectful way you can say goodbye.
Yeah. But, and again, sometimes things don't work out, and sometimes you just need to move on. And that's the whole thing. I think with the Satterfield thing too, is like, we're all asking Scott Satterfield, just prove to us that the loyalty to this program from fans, the loyalty to sticking to trying to just figure this thing out with Scott Satterfield, prove to us that you're the guy. Prove to us why we should shut up and listen and pay attention, and give us that confidence that this team is heading in the right direction. I'll add this because we had some fun chirping today. UCF, dog. I'm just going to throw this out there. They hired Scott Frost, which we all know. This is not news at this point, but I want people to remember Scott Frost at Nebraska's best season was a 5-7 season. He was very bad. Do not compare him to Scott Satterfield, and do not compare him. Do not try to use that as an own. It's not a burn if you compare his era to Cincinnati right now. I think UCF fans, unfortunately for them, fortunately for us, will see have a world of hurt coming, because Scott Frost was not built for the P5 level. We saw it clear as day. Just because you put him back at a place that he succeeded at does not mean that he's going to be good. 7 years as a head coach, 1 winning season, 1 fake national championship. That's all.
That once you just said it. Why does UCF continue to live in 2017? They are obsessed with it. They only care about the year 2017. 2016 was when Pokemon Go released. That was the great year. Well, 2017 has nothing to say for it. So go ahead, live in the past, do whatever you need to do, take your copium. We'll be trying to move forward. Keyword is trying. Keyword is trying.
Keyword is trying. You know what's tough? It's very difficult to move forward into next year with the first game of the season being played against Nebraska at Arrowhead Stadium on August 28th. It was supposed to be played in Indianapolis. It was supposed to be played in Nippert Stadium, but got moved to a bigger venue to make more money, to allow Nebraska fans to show up. and spend their money. And now we're going to move it to Arrowhead and give away a home game because we're going to play a game as the Cincinnati Bearcats. Mind you, the Bengals also play in the stadium. Play a game in Kansas City, which is a grand total of 3.5 hours from Lincoln, Nebraska. It is 8.5 plus from Cincinnati. That is not a home game. I understand the desire to make money off of this game. I understand that $2.5 million or more could be a lot of money. However, we did the same thing with Ohio State. We gave away a big game that should have been in Nippert, and we're scared to do it because we want the money. Play these teams at home, make them come into your stadium and prove to them why sometimes all this bullshit talk about these big programs and these big brand names doesn't mean shit. I hate that we moved this game. I'm really not happy about it.
We are now a Power 4 school. Whether the school brand is or not, we are in a Power 4 conference. And what that means is that we should not put all of our chips on the table and fold. Like, this game was scheduled for 2020 home. And when the Big Ten decided that they were only going to play their conference games because of the COVID year, the game got moved to 2025. And yes,
and possibly cost us a college football playoff berth in 2020.
Correct. And so we, scheduled it for Lucas Oil Stadium, which great. Like, it's
2 hours.
Still close to us, but it's a much larger venue. Nebraska fans still can travel. It's also arguably an easier city to get into rather than Cincinnati for anyone who is choosing to fly, choosing to drive. Like, you want to say, hey, Nebraska fans, we'll knock, 2 hours off your commute. Great. To move it all the way to Kansas City, who knows what the weather will be like? Who knows, what it's very frustrating as a fan because I'll say it. One of my favorite memories of being a Bearcat fan is going to the Notre Dame game.
Yep.
And you want to go to these big games, but a Thursday night in late October when school's starting for students and for alumni who have kids in K through 12, and it just makes it so hard for anyone to travel. And you're going to give your home crowd the further commute for it. The money answer does not make it worth it in whatever regard you want to hold that. As a P4 school, you cannot be rooting for money anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, and this is going to sound like old man yells at cloud. It really will. But, this makes your program look small. This makes what all of the Big Ten programs, all of the SEC programs, this is what makes all of these other big power school programs who look down on you think. This is what causes that. When you move this type of thing for money because you're hungry for money, you're hungry for all this extra stuff, you want to put them in your house. You want to play them in your home turf. I know that we have 7 home games on the schedule. So this would technically have been an 8 if it was in Nippert. We moved it to a neutral site, so it's a neutral site home game, quote unquote. It's not. I get all that. I understand it. But you have to start acting like a big program in the fast. And people will say, take the money. That's a big program move. That's smart. I understand it. But you have to start acting like a big program and keeping those games here and saying, no, we are not what you think we are. We are a big time program. We deserve to belong here. You need to come to us. We need to stop giving these games away like we're just the low D1 team in the MAC or in the Sun Belt or wherever. Like, you need to act like you're in the Power 4 and you need to bring these teams here and you need to play them on your own home turf because it matters. And I think it matters to your fans. Give your fans the advantage of having these types of games at home. Like, don't give away your home advantage. And especially if it was in Lucas Oil, Bearcats fans are going to travel. They're going to show up. Kansas City, if I look up a flight here from Nashville to Kansas City at any given time, you could do the same for Cincinnati. It's like a $350 flight to Kansas City. You're going to put out a shit ton of Bearcats fans on that alone. All the Nebraska fans can travel, and they do travel well. We know that they travel well, and we know that they spend their money. But Bearcats fans, they might not want to make that drive on a Thursday night. You got to take off half the week. You got to leave on Wednesday to go to that game. It is not an actualizable event for Bearcats fans to go to. And that I think just I hate, because you've taken that advantage away from yourself in a year, which, like, I don't know if they're just hanging out Scott Satterfield to dry here, but like, that's going to be a tough game to play. It really will.
For your first game of the season.
A good team.
Yeah, and in the transfer portal era, like the guys that we just read off, this is going to be their first test as a true team, as the 2025 team. How do they play together? What are the strengths of this team? You're going to be in a hostile environment to start and to figure out. And look, you can try and find some positives in a couple ways. You can say, oh, cool, like Travis Kelce might get a shit ton of people there. Like, maybe Taylor Swift will be at a Bearcats game and will be wearing Bearcats gear. And like, the amount of Swifties that'll then be drinking Cincy Light, great. We can, we can get whatever we want as an athletic department. Option B, cringe god Dylan Raiola loses in his Patrick Mahomes cosplay in Kansas City Stadium, which would be absolutely fantastic.
It'd be wonderful.
That'd be wonderful to see. Point 3, or C. I can't remember if I was doing letters or numbers.
Either way.
The tailgating scene and the food scene in Kansas City is electric. Like, arguably probably better than Indianapolis. I've never tailgated at either, so I don't know that. I just know that, the broadcast specials that I've seen every time that the Bengals and Chiefs play in Kansas City, food's looking pretty good. And then 4/D. Cincinnati has some pretty good history playing in Kansas City.
Maybe not the most recent one. You know what? I'll add this.
Yes, the most recent one, because that should not have been called.
I agree.
Did he get to the ball early? Okay, maybe. But
I agree.
So did Dan Skillings. He left the line early, and oh well. Guess what? Didn't call it then.
Box out, bitch. I got point number 5 for you. Here's number 5. We're going to do a little plug here again. If you go to Kansas City, go to Arrowhead. You know what's in Kansas City? Our good friends at Charlie Hustle. So go check out their shop and go buy some Bearcats gear and support not only our show, but support your friends Charlie Hustle and support the 1012 network. And again, use that promo code 101215 for 15% off. Check out the shop. It is a very cool place. So there's your 5 points of optimism as to why it could be a good thing, even though I am very unhappy about this game being moved to Arrowhead.
Yeah, and I think it's probably safe to say a decent amount of Bearcats fans and alumni have been to Indianapolis before. I think that number drastically goes down of who's been to Kansas City. So I hope you make a trip out of it. Like, go and check out everything that the city has to offer, except for the Chiefs. Screw the Chiefs.
I can already tell you this. There's a family wedding, so this one will not be there, unfortunately. But we'll still be cheering on the Bearcats from beyond. Joel, shall we? Shall we unpack it?
Go for it, buddy.
You want to go for it? Or do you want me to go for it? What if we take turns?
Okay.
You start.
All right. It's
3.
time for
now we're making a weird cadence. It's time for the Bearcats Sports Wrap-Up. In 3, 2, 1, go.
Women's basketball, after a crushing victory over Xavier, they will host Marshall on Wednesday, and they visit number 13 Kansas State for their first conference game.
And short and sweet, swimming and diving. Hunter Webno. I'm going to hope I pronounced that right. Lindy
I'm so glad you gave me the first line.
And Owen Childs all won Swimmer of the week in the Big 12 last week. The men defeated FAU, and the women finished second in a tri-meet with FAU in Miami. Gotta love it. Go Bearcats.
Go Cats.
Good stuff. Again, this is the best part of doing any amount of a podcast like this is you just got to cover all the teams. You got to cover what you can in the fall and in the winter. It might not always be a loaded schedule, but we got things happening. You got teams to support. A lot of teams finished up their schedule. We got more stuff starting in the spring. It'll be no time at all before baseball starts. We got a whole lot more happening. So keep in tune for that. And as always, support the other teams. Women's basketball might be on a little bit of a heater right now. So go check them out. Go to the games, pump them up, keep this energy going. The Bearcats have to keep winning. I think that's all we got. We just hit an hour, real crisp, right on the dot. So you got anything else, Joe?
Are we going to do a holiday special next week?
We might have to. You might have to. It might have to get real Christmassy up in here.
All right. Then I will hold off on my happy holidays.
We're still going to say happy holidays because some people will celebrate Christmas this weekend.
That's fair. Yeah.
So,
family events.
So happy holidays to all of you who are celebrating this weekend and to those of you who will celebrate next week. Of course, Christmas does fall on a Wednesday and Christmas Eve on a Tuesday. So our schedule might be a little weird, but we will probably find a way to put out a show most likely next week.
Hanukkah also begins next Wednesday as well.
There you go. So
fun fact, fun end of podcast fact. I fell asleep on the couch this past, what was it? Friday night, and woke up to the TV playing some weird fever dream Adam Sandler musical cartoon. It was the wildest thing I have ever woken up to. It was Adam Sandler and Adam Sandler doing three different voices singing a song together. It was absolutely wild.
It does sound like a fever dream. It does sound like a dream. I'm not even
But
sure.
it was real. It was on TV.
Real. It was real.
Let me look up. Hold on. Let me plug it real quick.
Well, Joe will finish us out with this exact title. So you guys can have something to watch. Our dear beloved friend, Adam Sandler. You know what? Let's just add this. Adam Sandler just seems like the dude. If there's anybody I could just have dinner with, it would be that guy for sure.
Released in 2002, 8 Crazy Nights, PG-13. It's an hour and 18 minutes long, 5.3 out of 10 on IMDb, 13% on Rotten Tomatoes.
So it's a good movie.
It's a great movie. Let me give you the recap real quick. Davy Stone, a 33-year-old party animal, finds himself in trouble with the law after his wild ways go too far. In keeping with the holiday spirit, the judge gives Davy one last chance at redemption. Spend the holiday performing community service as the assistant referee for the Youth Basketball League, or go to jail. Davy thinks he's gotten off easy until he meets Whitey Duvall, the eccentric, elf-like head referee.
All right.
Look.
That'll do it.
If you want to have a fever dream, go ahead and watch this movie, because you'll get to the musical number that I woke up to and just think, what the hell is going on?
So it's Christmassy.
It's Hanukkah-y.
Hanukkah-y. So, okay.
It's called 8 Crazy Nights, Justin.
8 Crazy Nights. We're going to watch it. Thank you to all of you who just listened through that section of the show and who listened to the entirety of the show. If you've reached this point in the show, please go over to our Spotify, to our Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review. Please give us a 5-star if you enjoyed the show. And as always, follow us on Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, whatever have you, wherever we post any of our information clips, and tweet. It's fun. So keep on supporting the show. Keep on supporting the 1012 Network. Keep on supporting our sponsors, Charlie Hustle. Thank you to all of you who listened. Guess what? At the end of the day, win or lose on Friday against Dayton, Xavier still sucks. Viva
La Cats.